Before we dive in, welcome to the Extinct Unknown, the place where forgotten monsters, ancient enigmas, and terrifying relics of Earth's past come back to life. If you crave the mysteries of deep time, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Every click keeps this channel alive, unlike the creatures you're about to meet. Now, imagine a world where life was still experimenting, where evolution stumbled, twisted, and birthed shapes that look more like nightmares than natural beings. A world where survival meant mutation, sometimes grotesque, sometimes brilliant, often both. These are not the dinosaurs you know. These are nature's strangest experiments, mutant beasts of prehistory. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture standing on the shores of an ancient sea, 500 million years ago. The water is dark, choked with plankton, alive with strange shadows. Suddenly, a creature glides into view. Its body armored like a knight, but its head replaced by a set of jagged spines, its mouth nothing but a ring of gnashing teeth. This was the Anomalocaris, one of Earth's earliest predators. Its bulging eyes scanned the water, its spined arms grabbed prey, tearing them apart in a way no creature had done before. To us, it looks alien, like something built in a fever dream. But in its time, it was perfection. The Cambrian period was a biological laboratory gone mad. Creatures sprouted extra limbs, bizarre mouths, and body plans that seem impossible by today's standards. Some, like hallucigenia, were so strange that scientists reconstructed them upside down for years, thinking its spines were legs, and its legs were tentacles. Imagine something crawling across the ocean floor, a worm-like body, walking on soft, stubby limbs, while razor spines pierced upward from its back like spears. It was fragile, yet dangerous. One wrong glance, and you'd think it came from another planet entirely. But the Cambrian was only the beginning. Evolution, it seemed, wasn't satisfied with ordinary shapes. It kept pushing, mutating, twisting. For every elegant predator like the saber-toothed cat, there were dozens of failed blueprints, creatures too strange, too unstable to last. And yet, for a fleeting moment, they ruled. Travel forward millions of years. The Devonian period, the so-called Age of Fishes. Here, armored monsters called placoderms swam the seas. Dunkleosteus, the titan of them all, was built like a mutant weapon. Its skull was a fortress of bone plates. Its jaws sheared prey with the crushing force of guillotines. It had no true teeth, only sharpened bone plates that self-sharpened every time it closed its mouth. Imagine the sea turning black as its shadow passed overhead. Even sharks, the very ancestors of today's apex killers, were nothing but prey when Dunkleosteus prowled. Yet alongside these giants lived stranger things. Take the anti-arc placoderms, fish with armored heads and bizarre jointed armored arms that looked more like mechanical limbs than natural fins. They seemed almost artificial, like nature had tried to invent underwater machines long before humans dreamed of them. Watching one crawl across a silty bottom must have looked like a nightmare from a machine-haunted dream. But evolution's experiments weren't confined to the oceans. Step onto land during the Carboniferous, and you'd find forests where dragonflies had wingspans as wide as eagles, their compound eyes glowing in the damp gloom. Millipedes the length of cars coiled through the undergrowth, their countless legs rippling like waves of armor. Why so big? The air itself was different, rich with oxygen, feeding gigantism. Nature had turned its dial to excess, and the results were terrifying. These were mutants of atmosphere, creatures bloated by the very air they breathed. And yet, this was just the prologue. For when reptiles began to dominate, evolution pushed its experiments further, creating not just giants, but beings that seemed stitched from different blueprints of life itself. Imagine walking along the shoreline of a Triassic lagoon. The water ripples, but not from fish. A reptile lifts itself out, a creature with a long, crocodile-like snout, its back plated like a tank, yet its limbs sprawling awkwardly, almost mammal-like. This was Placerias, a strange dicynodont, a holdover from the Permian era. It had tusks jutting from its beaked mouth, yet it was no predator. Instead, it was a herbivore, wandering among giants with a face that looked like it had been assembled from mismatched parts. Nearby lurked something even stranger, Tanystropheus, a reptile with a neck longer than its body and tail combined, stretched into an absurd fishing rod. Its body seemed comically small, almost useless, but that neck, nearly 20 feet of bone and sinew. Scientists still debate how it lived. Did it wade in the shallows, neck plunging into the water to spear fish? Or did it float, using its endless neck as a trap for unwary prey? Either way, it was a creature so bizarre, so unbalanced, that it looks more like a drawing from a child's nightmare than a product of evolution. The Triassic was filled with these trial runs, creatures that seemed like drafts of ideas, many of which would vanish forever. Evolution was sketching, erasing, and sketching again. And with each failed experiment, the world became stranger and more dangerous, because not all of nature's mistakes were weak. Some were monsters. Some of nature's failed sketches never disappeared. Instead, they evolved into things so outlandish, so hauntingly strange, that even in dominance they seemed unnatural. The Jurassic period, the age when dinosaurs rose to power. To most, this conjures images of colossal predators with razor teeth, or long-necked herbivores stretching toward the treetops. But hidden within this age of giants were mutants that seemed to defy the rules of anatomy. Look to the skies. The first flyers were not birds. They were pterosaurs, reptiles with wings stretched on elongated fingers. Some were elegant, but others looked like living hallucinations. Picture Nyctosaurus, a relatively small pterosaur, but crowned with a head crest taller than its body. A skeletal mast, rising like a jagged sail, with no clear purpose. Was it for display, balance, or something far stranger? To watch it soar against the Jurassic sun would have been both beautiful and disturbing. A creature so unbalanced it seemed destined to fall. And then there was Dimorphodon, a pterosaur with wings like leather sails, but a head that seemed borrowed from a nightmare. Huge, oversized eyes bulged above a short, blunt skull filled with mismatched teeth. Its body was awkward, its wings jagged, its gait clumsy. Imagine something fluttering out of the darkness, half bat, half reptile, half something else. A mutant pioneer, caught between failure and brilliance. On the ground, other experiments stalked the forests. Take the Ceratosaurus, its body like a typical predator's, but adorned with bizarre blade-like horns and rows of bony ridges along its back. Or consider Monolophosaurus, with its single hollow crest along its skull, almost like a pipe organ of bone. What was it for? To call, to resonate, to threaten? The truth is lost. But the result was a predator that looked more like a mistake of design than a streamlined hunter. But the strangest of all did not belong to the Jurassic Titans. They belonged to the shadows of the Cretaceous, the age when nature pushed its blueprints to their breaking points. Here we meet Therizinosaurus, perhaps the strangest dinosaur of all. Imagine a creature standing taller than a giraffe, its body bird-like, its belly swollen with plants, but its arms, grotesque and alien, stretched long with claws as long as swords. Each talon curved nearly 3 feet, sharper than scythes. And yet, it was a herbivore, a gentle giant, draped in feathers, lumbering through the undergrowth like some half-formed nightmare. Evolution had taken the tools of a killer and handed them to a vegetarian. To see it move would have been surreal, a monster armed for murder, grazing like a cow. Nearby lurked Deinocheirus, another mutant colossus. At first, all paleontologists found were its colossal arms, nearly 8 feet long, ending in massive claws. For decades, no one knew what body went with them. Some imagined a giant predator. The truth, when revealed, was stranger. Deinocheirus was a duck-billed, humpbacked, shaggy-feathered beast with a face stretched into a toothless grin. A lumbering omnivore, with arms too massive for its own needs. It looked like 3 different dinosaurs fused into one, a walking contradiction that should not have existed, yet did. And then, there were the pterosaurs of the late Cretaceous. By now, nature had gone completely mad with the skies. Quetzalcoatlus the Titan stood as tall as a giraffe, with wings that could stretch across a basketball court. But size was not the strangest part. Some pterosaurs bore crests so enormous they seemed impossible. Tapejara, for example, carried a head sail larger than its own body, rising like a bloody flag in the wind. Tupandactylus had a split crest, half bone, half soft tissue, towering over its skull like a mutant crown. Some scientists believed these were signals used to attract mates. Others whispered that they were flight stabilizers. But looking at them, it's hard not to feel a deeper sense of unease, like these creatures were mistakes that somehow thrived. And it wasn't only reptiles. The age of dinosaurs was also the dawn of strange mammals, scurrying in their shadows, hiding secrets of their own. Consider Rapenomamus, a mammal the size of a badger that hunted young dinosaurs. When scientists cracked open its fossilized stomach, they found the bones of a baby Psittacosaurus inside. Imagine that, a furry, reptile-like mammal feasting on the very giants that overshadowed it. Nature had given it teeth sharp enough to tear flesh, a predator hiding where no one expected. But perhaps even more chilling were the mammals with features that seemed misplaced. Castorocauda, a semi-aquatic mammal from the Jurassic, had a beaver-like tail, webbed feet, and fur designed for water. It appeared millions of years before mammals were supposed to return to the water. It was an evolutionary echo of things yet to come, a mutant prototype of otters, seals, and even whales. These creatures remind us that nature does not plan, does not design with purpose. It mutates, it stumbles, it experiments. And often, those experiments feel grotesque. Watching them today, through the fossils they left behind, unsettles us, because they look almost right, but not quite. And yet, nature's strangest experiments were not finished. For after the dinosaurs fell, the world entered an age where mammals mutated into giants, monsters, and strange aberrations that seem almost more terrifying because they are closer to us. The Ice Age was waiting, and with it, mutant beasts of flesh and fur. When the last dinosaurs vanished, the Earth went silent. But nature's experiments did not stop. Instead, they took new forms. Flesh, fur, and bone twisted into bizarre blueprints. The age of mammals had begun, and with it, some of the strangest monsters evolution ever conceived. Picture a vast plain during the Miocene. The air is dry, the horizon endless. Suddenly, a shadow rises, not of a predator, but of a giant. Deinotherium, a relative of the elephant, lumbers forward. But look closely. Its tusks do not jut upward like its modern cousins. Instead, they curve downward from its lower jaw like grotesque hooks. No one knows their true purpose. Were they for stripping bark from trees? For battle? Or some strange, long-forgotten behavior? To watch this giant move across the savannah must have felt like watching a mutant ancestor of elephants, a shape half right, half wrong. But not all were giants of power. Some were giants of strangeness. Enter the Megatherium, the ground sloth. Imagine a creature as tall as a house, lumbering on two legs, its claws like enormous sickles. Slow, deliberate, unnerving. Its shaggy fur masked a body that looked as though it should collapse under its own weight. Yet it thrived. A sloth so large it could uproot trees, its claws tearing bark and branches with terrifying ease. If you stumbled upon it in the ancient South American forests, you would see a face strangely peaceful, yet armed with weapons sharp enough to disembowel. A contradiction of flesh, lumbering across the ages. And then, there were the predators. Some, like Andrewsarchus, looked almost unnatural. A wolf stretched to impossible size, its skull massive, jaws like a bear's, yet its body long and low like a hyena's. A Frankenstein's predator, stitched together by evolution's blind hand. We know little about how it hunted, but to imagine it stalking the grasslands, its head rising above the brush, jaws gaping with teeth made for cracking bone, is to imagine terror itself. Others took familiar forms and twisted them. The entelodonts, often called hell pigs, were not pigs at all, but relatives of hippos. Yet they looked like grotesque caricatures, giant boar-like beasts with massive skulls, jaws that could crush bone, and bodies built for intimidation. Their skeletons suggest they were omnivores, scavengers, even killers. Standing before one would have felt like staring into the eyes of a mutant swine god, something dredged from humanity's darkest myths. But perhaps the most haunting experiments came closer to the dawn of humanity. The Ice Age, an Earth ruled by cold, hunger, and giants. Mammoths, towering and woolly, carried spiraling tusks that twisted like ivory blades. Their cousins, the mastodons, bore straighter weapons, but their bodies were bulkier, their presence more menacing. These were the last echoes of gigantism, mutants born of frost and desperation. Alongside them roamed creatures even stranger. The Glyptodon, an armadillo the size of a car, armored in bony plates, its tail ending in a spiked club. It looked less like a mammal than a living tank. To early humans, it must have seemed unkillable, a beast forged from both flesh and stone. And then there was Macrauchenia, a bizarre herbivore with the body of a camel, the neck of a llama, and a trunk like a tapir. A creature that seemed like a mistake, as if nature had assembled parts from different animals and left the result wandering across the plains. But the most chilling truth is this: many of these mutant beasts lived alongside us. Early humans saw them, hunted them, perhaps feared them. Imagine standing at the edge of a frozen forest as twilight falls and hearing the bellow of a mammoth echo across the ice. Imagine glimpsing a shadow in the dark and realizing it is a cave bear, 10 feet tall, its massive body blotting out the firelight. Imagine staring into the eyes of a saber-toothed cat, its fangs glinting like daggers, a predator so strange and specialized that it became an evolutionary dead end. These were nature's last great experiments, and we were witnesses. But then, just as quickly as they appeared, they were gone. One by one, the mutants vanished. Some died with the changing climate, unable to adapt. Others fell to the cunning of humans who hunted them to extinction. Nature's strangest creations, erased by fire, ice, and spear. And yet, their absence is unsettling. Because when we look at their fossils, when we reconstruct their faces, we feel something uncanny. They do not feel like simple animals. They feel like whispers of possibility, glimpses of what life might have been if evolution had taken a different turn. They remind us that we too are experiments, mutations that thrived. And just like them, our permanence is an illusion. Perhaps someday, something will look back on us the same way we look at them, as mutants of our own time. This has been the Extinct Unknown. If this dark journey into nature's strangest experiments has left you unsettled, fascinated, or haunted, leave a comment below. What creature unsettled you most? Don't forget to subscribe and share this with those who dare to look into the shadows of prehistory. Because the truth is, nature's laboratory never closed. The experiments continue.